Hello everyone and welcome back to Unity of Command. This is the campaign scenario Dash to the Donets from the Blackturn DLC. September the 28th, 1941. Fresh from crossing the Dnieper, Army Group South plows into the industrial heartland of the Soviet Union. And before we do anything else, I'd like to state that this is one of my favorite scenarios in the campaign. It is quite challenging, but it is a lot of fun. It has a lot of variety and it showcases a lot of the mechanics of the game without any special tricks, really. So it's a really enjoyable scenario in my opinion. That being said, it's pretty hard. I've had to replay this quite a few times before I got this right, but I'll show you how it can be beaten. As you can see, the Soviets do not outnumber the Axis forces that severely. Instead, they are much stronger now, so so they put up a lot of resistance, and it will really challenge a lot of your tactics and strategies. So you will have to bring your best game in order to beat this map. Right, let's take a quick look at our forces before we look at the scenario details. So, in my opinion, you can break this map into three quite different sectors. In the south, we have some pretty good units mixed in with, so these, we have the Leibstandarte, and this time it is actually correctly depicted as an SS motorized unit, with only 4 active steps, but it is still one of the best units in the game, and it's only veteran for some reason. Still, it's a great asset. We also have the first Gebirgsjäger mountain division, which has a pioneer special step pioneer with them, and they are also excellent, so they're a great unit. We also have a further Gebirgsjäger division, which is veteran. So these are all veteran. And there are some Romanian units mixed in with them, which are, as you know, quite useless. And standing against them is a whole bunch of Soviet troops, entrenched as usual, and some of them with gun special steps with these 122mm M30 guns, sporting their best equipment, so to speak. In the southernmost end of the map, there is a little river, small river, but other than that, they are just standing in the open. And this little battle group needs to capture this objective here. We'll talk about it later. And I'll also show you how it can be done. It can be done reliably. So the thing about this map is that the strategies I'm going to show you can be used reliably. That's really great. You don't really need to rely on luck at all, or at least very minimally, if you want to achieve a brilliant victory. On the other hand, it took me quite a few tries to to get them all, to capture all these victory hexes. In fact, I managed to capture like 1 on the first try, and then on the next try I managed to capture the first 2, and on the next one the first 3, and then it took 3 or 4 or 5 tries or so until I got to capture all of them. So back to the forces. In the middle area, we have our best divisions here. We have the Viking SS motorized division, along with 3 Panzerdivisionen, and one of them sports recon unit along with it, special step, which makes it far more powerful. So it adds a lot of stats to the Panzer division. We also have 2 pioneer units here. One of them is motorized, actually. They're all veteran. Sorry, this one is standard, but most of our forces are veteran here. And we are complemented by the Slovakian fast division, which is not very useful, but at least as the name implies, it's fast. And around Dnepropetrovsk, we have the Hungarians entrenched on the western bank of the Dnieper, along with some RHG elements. This is some security unit, so it's a very weak division or very weak little unit, don't use it in offensively, only to mop up and in defensive areas. So this is where your punch is really. These units are extremely powerful. The Soviets facing them are quite weak, although they are beyond the river. So their initial positions are quite favorable, but once you break them, there is really not much stopping them. And in the north, you have a huge bunch of infantry units, all standard, by the way. One with the Pioneer, a special step, and there are a few Jaeger units which are a bit faster, that are poised to go up against Kharkov. So these, I would say that these three sectors can be fairly well separated from each other. However, you will see that there is a little bit of play here and there. You have to use different tactics in each front sector, but you have to also combine them a bit. So again, this is a very it's a really fun map. So a lot of fun to play this one. One thing to note is that in the north, the Soviets are stronger than your forces. So these infantry units do not measure up against what is put up against them. If you look at these three of the Soviet units, three of the Soviet rifle divisions have T-34 attached, special step attached to them. This makes these units superior to anything, maybe apart from the Pioneer, but anything else that you are sending against them, even offensively. So they can and will attack you and will cause casualties. These units are better than anything else here, apart from probably the Pioneer unit. They also have a couple of guns here, actually just one sitting in the victory hex objective. They have two cavalry divisions and two tank divisions. So the point is that this is going to be the first time where the Axis forces are actually, objectively speaking, weaker than the Soviet forces. And obviously you need to advance, so I'll show you how it can be done. It's not an easy battle. In the middle sector, there is also one further T-34 special step attached to a rifle division. But other than that, it's basically these are weak units. And of course, in the victory hexes, we see rifle divisions equipped with the 45mm M42 gun, and we are all too familiar with this one. They are excellent in the defense as well. Alright, one final thing to note, there are the area, this map is relatively big, and there is so we can see the areas beyond the Donets river, and you can also see that there are heavily entrenched, quite strong units equipped with some special step in special locations. These units never move or attack, and there is no reason to bother them. So basically, you don't need to destroy them or to even threaten them or anything. You can leave them alone, and I highly recommend you do so because they are very powerful. They're in excellent positions, and again, they're not really protecting anything that you need to focus on, including this NKVD Soviet Infantry Division, the Rostov Garrison. Okay, let's take a look at the map real quick. We have 4 objectives to hit. The first one is in the south, it's Mariupol. Race towards the Sea of Azov and encircle the Soviet forces defending west of here, to be taken by the end of turn 4. Well, encircle might not be the best way to put it, and the encirclement is not going to be carried out by the forces that are going to capture Mariupol, so it's a bit of a misleading description, but we are actually going to cut these units off from supply. That's the only way to win this battle here, as I'll explain later. Then we have in the north Kharkov. Capture this industrial city early on. This should prevent the evacuation of the machinery and workforce eastwards, also to be captured by the end of turn 4. This is extremely tricky, and the only way you can achieve this, you can hope to achieve it, is if you take one of your panzer divisions from the south. I recommend using this one, and attach it to the northern strike force. Kind of, it's still quite tricky. but you cannot afford to take any more units from the middle sector, and you absolutely need to move one of them here. So you need some punch. This one pioneer unit will not get you through to the city. So if you don't do that, then you are not going to capture this city. As I've said, the forces here are superior to yours, so you'll have to micromanage your heart out and even get some reinforcements. Otherwise, uh, you won't succeed. By the way, we don't have any special actions, so no air attacks, no bridging, no nothing. Not that they're much needed, but we do receive one, and exactly one, infantry division for free. It's a standard infantry division, nothing special. It's going to arrive in this area after a few turns. So in the northwest. The next objective is Stalino. Capture the center of the resource-rich Donbass region, to be captured by the end of turn 5. This is not a very difficult objective, but you need to kind of race here and this river. So there are two rivers to cross here basically, and so the Soviets can slow you down quite considerably. This is something to consider. And the final one, which is the trickiest one of them all, is the Mayas, I hope I'm pronouncing this river's name right, Mayas bridgehead. Gain a foothold across the river for a future advance towards Rostov, to be taken by the end of turn 6. And yeah, it's a bridgehead, so it's on the eastern side, on the further bank of the Mayas river, and that means that you need to get there prior to turn 6. If you're just assaulting it from your side, from the western side of the river, then you're not going to capture it. This is a really tricky one, because what it means effectively is that while besieging Stalino, you already have to, or even before that, you already have to keep this in mind and keep pushing forwards, and just leave Stalino for some secondary units or later units arriving later to be captured. All right. I've already explained the terrain, but let me explain it again. So here in the middle sector, there are two rivers that we need to cross. Other than that, there is nothing really that you should be worried about. Apart from the Mayas River that I've also explained. Everything else is open terrain. So in the middle, we're gonna see some nice tank battles, encirclements, and some really fast advances. And in the north, it's just a meat grinder with the infantry. And in the south, it's really funny. It's going to be in the south, it's going to be a tricky situation. This is a kind of a specialist force, and what we need to do with it is we need to strike ahead while remaining in supply, and we need to create a kind of a conga line as long as we can do it, so the lengthiest that we can achieve, and wait until the middle sector breakthrough is successful, and then attach ourselves kind of to them. So expect the supply to come from the north, and then that's how you get to capture Mariupol, which is in real life a city, and I think this is a clear hex here. So yeah, this is kind of strange. So let's see the supply. So the supply situation. At first glance, now I'm first going to talk about the Soviet supplies, and at first glance you might think that there is no way to cut them off. There are a lot of supply sources, but this supply source is totally useless. The road exits, the supply line exits the map, so this is not used for anything at all. And in reality, the Soviets only have two supplies, because this one as well doesn't reach anything. It's off-road, so it reaches probably until the river. That's about it. The only two supplies that they can use both have a range of 8, and they're both sitting on roads. What this means effectively is that it's extremely difficult to cut off Kharkov. I think this one reaches until there, or roughly. And it's totally impossible to cut off Stalino or the bridgehead in time. So the final two objectives in time for that to take effect. But if you look at the map, you can see that you can very easily cut off the southern sector, and also the southern half of the middle sector. So if you manage to cut the supply route somewhere before Stalino, which is not a difficult thing to do, then all of these units will start to run dry very quick. and that's exactly what we're going to do. So the southern sector needs assistance, and as I've mentioned, the northern sector also needs assistance. So the middle sector will have to do a lot of have to pull a lot of weight in order to succeed. All right. As I've said, I will play this map a lot of times, quite a few times, so I know what I'm doing. This is actually really fun, so let's see what happens. First we attack here precisely with the Pioneer and use the Romanians to mop up, and here I'm creating that conga line that I mentioned earlier. In the meantime, we're also trying to destroy some units, or at least damage them along the way. I'm not attacking again, because if I did, then the Leibstandarte would be prone to counterattacks the next turn. And there is a specific reason for this setup. We try to cut as deep as we can, but also try to maintain some connection with our supply. So as you can see, this is as far as we can go with before running out of supply. So this is kind of excellent. This is a kind of setup that you want to do. You don't need to do it identically, but something similar at least. Now in the middle sector, we have one unit that's already in a kind of a bridgehead across the river, but we want to capture this bridge. So and the thing is that our supplies are I didn't mention our supplies, apologies. So here's to that. So our supplies are on the road except in the south. So in the south it's just off-road, and this is as far as it reaches. So that's what I mean, that we need the supply to be captured, to be brought in from the north. But other than that, all the roads provide us with supply sources, and they all have a range of 8. So that's excellent. As long as we can extend, we can capture all these roads, then we should be fine all around. But that also means that we need to capture this road, this supply line, at least until Zaporozhye, and continuing, we should also strive to capture it up until Stalino. That's not going to happen. As you can see, I got very lucky with this attempt at the tail end of the mission. But this is something you should strive for. So we need to clear this whole area out, basically. Anyway, as I was saying, we have this Pioneer unit already on the other side of the river, so it gets to attack first. And the idea is that it will chase away this cavalry division. It's entrenched, but it's not at all formidable. Then you can push this Panzer division across and also heavily damage or chase away or even destroy this cavalry division. So follow these steps exactly as I do. This should work out most of the times. Yeah. And okay, I don't know why I destroyed that cavalry division, probably because it moved to an inconvenient position. But I send this motorized division, which is veteran and has a pioneer step, and as you can see, it's far superior to the Soviet cavalry unit. It actually destroys it across the river, which is quite a feat, although the Soviet cavalry is not very powerful. And now there is nothing protecting this bridge, so these units are on the other side of the river. We could just dash across, and we will in a moment. In the north, I open up by attacking with this Pioneer unit, and we want to capture the supply route as long as we can. And just as I explained earlier, we need to send the this Panzer unit to the north to assist in this battle, because otherwise these units won't manage. So this is exactly what it's doing. And yeah, and this is what I was waiting for to showcase. So this unit has a recon capability, which means it can capture more territory, and we push it as forward as we possibly can. I highly recommend you do this. This is not at all difficult to achieve, just as I did. And when you manage, then all of these units will be out of supply. So their supply source has a range of 8, if I remember correctly, and it won't reach their front line. So it will cause the whole Soviet front line to collapse, and it's a risky maneuver, but this is one of your best units anyway. I move the 5th SS Division, Viking, forwards, and yeah, and as you can see, they are extremely powerful. And since this attack was so successful, I decided to move the security unit to the north, across the river, sorry. And yeah, and I'm just moving these other fast units forwards. The Slovakians and the Hungarians and the Romanians are pretty worthless, but they are fast. Most of them are fast. The Romanian cavalry and these other units are also either cavalry or motorized. So you can use them to cut off the enemy from supply, mop up really weakened units, depleted units, etc. So they're actually going to come in handy. Now we're just trying to secure our supply here, and in the north we're pushing. We need to get as close to the city as possible because we need to capture it on turn 4, and that is more difficult than you think at first glance. I decide to cut off these 2 units, but I also decide to whittle down this cavalry division. It is weaker than well, or it is probably as weak as a standard infantry division, but it's already been damaged, so it's a relatively easy prey. And yeah, I'm also trying to widen our approach a bit because this is not going to work out very well. And the Soviets' turn, before we do anything else, let's check their supply situation. You can already see that the southern sector and the middle sector is all cut off. So that's excellent. This is precisely what we wanted. Of course, they're in supply in the north and everywhere else, so there is not much you can do about it. But you absolutely need to do this because the units in the south are simply not numerous enough to deal with all these units, some of them with special steps otherwise. So the Soviets move into the victory hex as always. The AI does that, and it's trying to cut us off. This unit is cut off, unfortunately. There's nothing to do about that, and as usual it's trying to bunch up in front of our units to stop our approach to their victory hexes. And this is what I was talking about. These units with the T-34 special steps, they are excellent on the offense. I know it attacked only the Slovakian fast division, but it was on the defense and it couldn't even retaliate really. And yeah, and with the guns it can attack the Romanians as well. Actually, it attacks the German division here, and the Jaeger units have a somewhat lower defensive rating. But the point is, we didn't even cause them any casualties in retaliation. So beware of these units. They are superior to your standard units by far, especially on the defense. So don't throw away units, attacking them. Alright, it's our turn number 2, and I try to remove this one because it's very annoying, and at first I was very sad that we only managed to cause it 1 casualty, but then it fled, so it's kind of worked out, I guess. It fled beyond its river, so if we manage to mop up these non too formidable infantry units, then at least we have the path clear, if not the supplies, unfortunately. I still go closer to the city. I realize that I can either pull this unit back, which I don't want to do because I want to keep cutting them off from supply, and we need to advance, or we can advance and use it to attack the city. The attack was quite underwhelming, but even though this Panzer division will be out of supply, I hope to reconnect it relatively soon, and then we can resupply it. So that's the thinking here, at least. And as I've said, we need to kind of clear out this bunch of weak Soviet units here, and it goes excellently, as you can see. And yeah, they don't really stand a chance. I'm also decide to send the Viking forwards. And since that unit advanced and kind of surprised us, I don't want such surprises again, so I decide to hold the western bank of this river at the bridge. And the Hungarians have moved forwards. This is fine. This unit won't be able to attack the next turn, and neither will most of these be able to attack the next turn. So you can already start counting with the fact that there won't be any counterattacks in this sector of the front line, and so we just need to advance as much as we can and try to get as close to the victory hex as we can. In this turn, all of our units remained in supply. This is crucial, and although we are we will probably be cut off at this moment. We are not, by the way, because we managed to connect in from the north. You still kind of need to do this. So completely theoretically, now we are fine. None of these units will be able to attack, and if it all goes well, then actually we are all remaining in supply. So that this is fantastic. This is a very good setup. So the trick here is that by the end of turn 2, you should abandon your supply source from the south, and you should reconnect, capture at least some of this road, and connect it to your southern little strike force. In the north, there is no real trick. Just bash away at the Soviets. Yep. And I captured their supply, but it doesn't make them. So we captured the supply source here, but it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't weaken them sufficiently enough, so that this is not a real victory here, to be honest. It is enough to cause these units to panic in the next turn and try to retreat, I think. Anyway, the first attack must be done by the Pioneer unit, because this unit is entrenched. It's extremely strong. So let's see how it goes. And yep, it managed to deal us 3 steps of casualties, including the Pioneer special step, which is very painful. Of course, we removed its entrenchment, so that's something, I guess. And now we send in the Panzer. This is in a city, but it's still, and has a gun, but at least it's not entrenched. And we're just bashing away at it. As you can see, this unit is extremely powerful. So once again, be mindful of that. You are not going to overwhelm the Soviets here at all. Yep, at least some of these units are easy now to mop up, and yeah, we will be able to destroy this one as well. So at least we've created quite a wide approach. And amazingly, the defenders, even though they're not entrenched, they're not veteran, they're not experienced, nothing really, they only have that gun, only received suppressive damage. So they survive, and they will be resupplied partially, fortunately only partially. So they're still quite okay. You can abandon this front line, by the way, especially after you've pushed through. Your supply comes from here and here, so the Soviets can move about if they wish. It's not really crucial, and that's exactly what I do. I'm protecting our supply, but at the same time also kind of telling the Soviets to do whatever they want. As for the Soviet supply situation, let's take a look at it. As you can see, Kharkov is still in supply by this off-road supply source. But as I've mentioned, the middle, this sector is out of supply, so that their little front line will break. And of course, in the south, they're also out of supply. That's mostly, at least. Some of these units are in supply, unfortunately, so there is something that we need to cut through. And don't forget, we need to capture this by the end of turn 4. I don't know why this unit captured the road. We don't receive anything on the road. We're not cut off, so this is totally pointless. And yeah, the T-34, the units with the T-34 special step will destroy you. Like this. So, and like this. So yeah, beware that you have formidable units opposing you. And we are cut off. The AI actually decides it's worth going on the offensive and cutting off these 3 units. This was already out of supply, so it won't be able to attack next turn, unfortunately. And this was also a great move. I actually saw that it could happen, but I didn't think the AI would do it. All of these units are now cut off from supply, all of them. So this makes our job relatively far more difficult. I should have moved this Hungarian unit ahead. This unit cannot attack, so it would have been completely safe. I should have moved it across the river. So do that next time and try to screen off your supply route. So as you can see, all of these units, or almost all of these units, are out of supply. The tank is in supply, and this infantry is also in supply, these units as well. But everything else beyond that point is out of supply for 1 turn, so they can still act, so we need to use that. But first I want to deal with the situation in the north, and this goes relatively horribly, but this unit was sufficiently suppressed so that it no longer can exert much resistance. However, we cannot enter the city, if I remember correctly, and that's really funny because then it can send one of its stronger units in. So so that wasn't a great victory right here, and we need to to re-establish contact with these units. It's absolutely crucial. We cannot allow them to run out of supply. And this goes decently. We're also starting to mop up at least the weaker Soviet units, um, and so this works in our favor. And also, if you see what I'm doing here, I'm sending some units to attack the city from behind. If they get cut off, it doesn't work out much well, but in the next turn we really need to push. Fortunately, this unit retreated into the city, and it's not a very strong unit, so unless the AI moves it out, which it doesn't tend to do, then we're fine. And here is the reinforcements that I was talking about. It corners the cavalry, so at least that's that. And I pull this unit back because I cannot afford to get out totally out of supply. Now, of course, we take revenge on this brave Soviet unit that dashed ahead, and we need to re-establish our supply lines, which goes without a hitch, so there is no issues with it. And now I know we can advance because I'm pretty sure we can start to move up these units, and we reach the city of Mariupol. And this unit retreats. It had like a 10% chance to retreat, so I was very much surprised that it did. But anyway, the Leibstandarte managed to capture it and then destroy this unit. As of this moment, if you look at it, these are the only two units that can attack. So no matter what sits in this victory hex, especially later, if we can keep the AI units out of supply, then you can just send a very weak unit there, and even if they swarm around it, they won't be able to attack it as long as they're out of supply. And then even if you are also out of supply, that doesn't really matter. And now I'm trying to mop up at least some of these Soviet units. I don't want to be cut off again. And yeah, it goes relatively decently. And here we also need to move. We should also try to remove as many of the Soviet elements as we can, but as you can see, there are a lot of them. So I decided instead to use the Viking to attack the city. It is not due for 2 more turns to capture it, so that's fine. And we attack bravely across the river. Fortunately, this is a very strong unit. It has a pioneer special step, and it's veteran. So even against the T-34, it manages to deal some damage at least. And yeah, after a bit of shuffling and movement, we're fine. The reason for these last moves is to ensure that this unit gains supply. There is nothing that can cut us off now, literally nothing. And I know this our supply reaches until here, so that's fine. The Soviets are starting to run dry in these sectors completely, so none of these units are able to attack. This one is, but it won't attack the motorized SS division. If it does, it will just get shredded to pieces, so that's fine, but it won't. Anything else is not dangerous to anything here at all, so because they won't attack. So even these weak units with 1 step each, or 1 or 2 steps each, will survive. In the north, that's not the case. The Soviets still have quite a powerful presence, as you can see, and they're causing us huge casualties. And there's some reinforcements there. As you can see, as the turns progress, the AI gets less and less to do, because half of its units are out of supply, and the other half are some of them at least are damaged. So there's very little it can do, fortunately. So it's time to capture Kharkov. We need to capture it on turn 4. We managed to capture Mariupol on turn 3, which was extremely lucky. But we need to capture it this turn, so I'm throwing everything against it because this is what we need to do, and this is a very costly battle. They're in a city, and yeah, I mean that was a battle to behold. Our infantry division had 3 active steps. The Soviets had 2 active and 1 passive step, and the result was 1 dead active step over there, and our unit was completely destroyed, evaporated. Now I'm sending the tank in, and of course it manages to destroy and overrun it, and we capture the city with it. So I'm positive that it won't attack, it won't be able to recapture the city, because this Panzer division still has 3 active steps, but and it's veteran, but it's not at full strength, so I'm also a bit wary of this fact. And so I decide to throw everything at the other units as well, to weather them down. Since this unit is cut off and we are removing this cavalry from the map, any damage that we deal to it is kind of permanent. It won't be able to regain it in the next turn, and once the T-34 special step is removed, it's no longer a threat. I'm also trying to clear out the supply route and to use the northern bank of this river to reconnect my units, but it doesn't go very well, as you can see. Here, yeah, I still have more units and there is no fear here, so the only risk that we can run is if we lose the victory hex. But this unit, as I've said, will never move, and these units will definitely not be able to recapture it now, so we're fine. Alright, we removed that one Soviet unit, so we're okay. And we are pushing relentlessly, so all our units are in supply. This is absolutely excellent in the south, and these Soviet units are completely worthless. I still hate the idea that we have to sacrifice some units, in the sense that we cannot use it for something else, for mopping up operation, but this is what it is. And you can see how worthless the Romanians are. This Soviet cavalry division has 1 active step and the Romanians have 3, and the result is 1 suppression on the Soviet side. It's not even destroyed, and we lose 2 active steps. And yep, and this was a crucial move, and a good one. We send the Leibstandarte onto the bank of this river, so that the next turn it can cross the river and attack the Myers bridgehead from the other side, from the other bank, and so it won't suffer any penalties because of the terrain. And also notice that there is a bit of high ground, or hilly terrain to the north, which makes traverse a bit costlier or a bit harder. So you either cross the river like this, or you send units across, but then you need to the north, but then you need extra movement steps to do that. And we send in the Slovakian fast division to hold Mariupol, not to capture it, but to hold it. Nothing will be able to attack it the next turn. This unit won't be able to attack the next turn, and all the others are completely depleted. So anything we sit in here is safe, completely safe. And now we're just trying to mop up. This was not necessary, but I was thinking that we might receive supply from other directions. These units are also weakened in the middle, and it fled, so it gave up the bridge. That's great. And the Hungarian motorized brigades, combined motorized brigade, is strong enough to destroy a highly depleted Soviet unit. Once again, these will also be out of supply, so they are not really threatening at all. And yeah, we're just trying to advance as much as we can. We managed to breach Stalino, the defenders in Stalino, and they get removed. Now is the crucial part of the scenario. As I've said, we need to capture the Myers bridgehead in the east, and so we do have 2 more turns to do that, but we actually need to rush as much as we can. And Stalino is already empty, and we need to capture it the next turn, so that's great. And I decide to mop up, but even fully depleted, this Soviet rifle division is stronger than a one step strong Romanian cavalry brigade, so that one gets destroyed. No, not a real loss there. I pulled back the Viking because it's fully out of supply, and we didn't manage to reconnect the road in the north. There was no way to do it, unfortunately. You should strive to do that, so actually it's a better idea to do that. And I really wanted to have it refilled. I didn't want to lose it for another turn, so that it cannot act at all. But otherwise we are fairly okay. We are quite far advanced to the east. The Soviets cannot really do anything against us. The AI won't be able to do much. It will reoccupy the city with a completely depleted unit. And this unit, although it's pretty powerful, it's once it's depleted, of course, it's nothing. Right. So as you can see, and everything here is totally depleted except for this one, which, or sorry, these two, which have one active step each. So not really scary. But still, they managed to move in back into the city surprisingly, and this is really shameless. This unit has one active step and a special step of T-34, and it destroys our Jaeger unit without suffering losses, and moves back into supply as well later, but it will. Yeah, now. Nothing else really poses a threat here. So, as you can see, these units are still fully out of supply, so they're not at all, they don't matter really, they're just dead weight. This was absolutely unnecessary, but I wanted to take revenge on this unit, and because we're not going to do anything with this little strike force here. These units won't arrive in time to the south to do anything worthwhile, so I'm just holding the bridge. I even send this unit across. If the enemy destroys it, then so be it. This is not, so this front line is done, is now, it's complete, it's finished, it's we have won, and there is nothing that is going to happen to it. And I still haven't given up on the idea that we will one day reconnect these units. And of course the completely depleted Soviet units fall very easily. Yeah. Or at least relatively easily. Even our security unit is making good progress, or making good work here. We lose the other Romanian cavalry unit. This was kind of to be expected, and this pioneer couldn't do anything else, so there was nothing else it reached. That's why I sent it against the depleted unit. And I knew also that it would not reach the final victory hex, so that was the best action it could do. Now we're sending the Viking SS division to clear out this totally depleted Soviet unit, so it's not a real battle here, and we use it to capture it as well. There is nothing that the Soviet tank unit can do, even if it theoretically got resupplied, which it won't. I mean, it cannot do anything against this veteran SS division. So we move the other SS division across the river and attack the city with it, which goes worse than expected, but at least we dealt it some damage. We still have one further turn to capture it, so that's fine. But these units will be out of supply, so it's also getting a bit scary. My idea is that some of these units have not moved, so we will be able to reconnect the route, and once we do that, then basically we're all okay, we'll all be in supply. So we should use we should send as many of our units as we can against the final victory hex to wear it down as much as we can. So we send our probably best Panzer division there, and it retreats. And I made a mistake here, so it retreated out of the victory hex. At this moment, of course, we have won, but we still haven't moved with some units here, so we could still clear out this tank division, connect the road. We could still clear out this straggler Soviet unit as well. At the very least, there is nothing threatening our victory now. I wanted to do that, and I wanted to start with this one. So what I wanted to do, again, we still have another turn to capture it, is to move this unit here to the north of this Soviet division, destroy it, and then clear up the rest. However, what I didn't know is that at that time is that if you move if you move over a victory hex, you capture it. So you don't need to enter it to capture it like a Panzer General or a Panzer Corps. You in those games, you really have to enter it and end your movement there. Crossing it doesn't count as capture. Here it does. So when I moved it across, then it made me win the scenario. So as you can see, this is absolutely winnable. We still had one turn left. You just really need to focus to always drive ahead as far as you can, and not be afraid to get out of supply for one turn with your fast moving units. Alright, Um, yeah, I didn't manage to clean up the map as I wanted to, as I said, but otherwise this was a pretty clean victory. Relative, we lost quite a few units in the north, but this is, I think, inevitable. Other than that, the strategy is clear. So in the south, use your units to dash ahead, to strike a gap in the front line and push ahead as far as your supply allows. Then in turn two, you need to be resupplied from the north. And in the north, just follow the initial steps that I've taken here in this little bridgehead area, and uh, capture these supply roads here up until and including Zaporozhia. You can use this bridge to rush ahead and besiege Stalino and at the same time circumvent the Soviet defenses here, because you would like to capture the supply route at its entirety. But always be mindful to always send units ahead. And once the Soviets are depleted enough so that they cannot attack, you can just use your weakest units to screen them off, and to also to occupy important hexes with it, like this victory hex. It doesn't matter if anything happens to that unit. As long as the Soviets remain out of supply, they won't be able to retake it, obviously, because they will not be allowed to attack. So that's it. In the north, the only trick is to use this panzer and to aim for the city itself. I've used quite a few smaller tricks there, so if you want, you can replicate my approach. But this is the key here. By themselves, these units won't win. That's it. They stand no chance of winning at all. But one tank division is enough. You need all the other units to push to advance in the middle sector as fast as you can. So don't over allocate, but also don't under allocate. This one tank division will do the job. Once I started allocating this one, I've always managed to capture it, and actually in many cases it was a cleaner victory. And the only real trick that I kept failing in the last few tries was to not be daring enough and not dash ahead. You also have to realize that once these units crumble, there is not much resistance ahead. So even if your units run out of supply for a turn or two, nothing much is really facing them. So they're not really in danger, because the Soviet forces here are quite meager. In the north, they're strong, but yeah, that's why you have to crush them, like really punch them. In the south, however, you can starve them out, and then they're a pushover. All right. Thank you all for joining me, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.